Welcome. In this video, I'll show you how to properly use WordPress as a headless CMS for a product web application built with Next.js. Here's the front end I have prepared, a very simple Next.js application that we will build to a static site, a product section that just lists a couple of products which are currently just static markup. If we open each product, we have an individual product page which will display information for the product type we'll create in WordPress. The blog section will retain the WordPress posts functionality. Here all of the posts will be listed and you'll be able to open each individual post showing its title and content. The about page will be a simple page demonstrating the pages functionality of WordPress. We'll create a swag dynamic route for all pages made in the WordPress pages section. And I've built a simple contact page so that we'll be able to implement a form with the Contact Form 7 plugin. And again, it will be a headless form. The plugin supports Headless WordPress and the REST API. Let's take a look at the code for this site. Currently everything is static. This is the Next.js project. I've used Tailwind CSS for the styles so that it's very simple. We have basically nothing in the main layout except a header and a footer component. The header is just this navigation and the footer is just this text. In my components folder I have these. As you can see, the header just includes a container and the navigation component. The navigation component includes just a couple of links to the different pages. The footer component is extremely straightforward, no need to even show it, just a paragraph of text. We have the products route, which has a page, this one, showing the 3 grid items currently. They are a cart component that accepts a couple of props. Title, which is this, subtitle, which is the category I will use. Then we have a label for the button and an href for the button and for the image. Currently I don't have an image prop because this image is hard-coded as an encoded SVG. We'll add that later when we pull it from the WordPress RESTful API. But this is the card component, very simple HTML that outputs the props, title, subtitle, button label, and href, and it has an image. We'll abstract that away as well. Okay, next up, let's check out the blog route. It's similar to product. It has a page. Here I have the blog posts as an array because this is more similar to how I'll get them from the API, and I prepared them like this. Currently they are hard-coded right here, statically in the page JavaScript file, but we'll retrieve that from the WordPress REST API. And I use this array to map through it, and I output this blog post for component for each of them, which just accepts title, author, swag, and a class name, and it just outputs them right here. Title, author, and the swag is used, if I open this blog post component, the swag is just used to generate the href to the individual page. And the title and the author are output into HTML elements. The swag and the individual page are right here in the blog route. I have a dynamic route for each swag. So whatever I enter after blog, it could be test 1, 2, 3 or whatever, it will always open this dynamic route. And this will show the individual blog post details, but for now it's just hard-coded text, which is displayed right here. Very straightforward. The individual route for products work the same way. If I open products, we have a swag dynamic route inside, so I can enter anything here right now and it will open it. The same page, and it's currently, if I open it, everything is static and hard-coded. The product name, we have a placeholder image, and just some text in each of the elements. We will use the REST API and the Headless CMS to retrieve this data and generate pages for each individual product type, of course. The About page, there's not much to discuss there. It's again a static page with nothing to it. And finally, the Contact page has, that's a mistake, this shouldn't be a client component. The Contact page has basically a few elements for the section spacing and the title. And then the form is a separate component that is client component, because we will make an AJAX request here. We will fetch a post request to the RESTful API in order to make a form submission. And the form works like this. I have abstracted away my input text area button components to a separate React component to style them only with Tailwind. They don't have extra functionality. Here's for example, the input. It's basically taking props, and the point to having this component is to abstract away all of these utility classes from Tailwind, which set styles like border, background, hover state, etc. So basically the form, let me open it. The form imports these styled components, and I have my fields in an array again, which includes all of the properties of the field, which component it should use, an input or a text area. I use these constants to compare later. I'll show you how. I have a label, type of the input, name and ID for now. We'll expand this array. And again, I map through this array and output fields for each item, which includes a label element. And then if the component is an input, I compare against these constants so that I don't compare text, a little bit more precise. And if the component is one of these types, I output the basic input or text. Very straightforward. I do this with the array of fields because we will convert that to a state variable, and we will use it for validation. We'll add a validation message here somewhere, because when we implement this form to work with the WordPress Contact Form 7 plugin, we will also have server-side validation from it. And we want to output validation messages in case the form submission fails. Okay, so basically that's the front end I have prepared. Very straightforward. I didn't decide it's worth noting how to build this. If you're interested in that, I have plenty of videos on how to build a static site with Next.js and an excellent Next.js course. You can check out my channel for those. They will be linked in the description. So to start, I have prepared a WordPress install. This is an entirely clean installation of WordPress. There's nothing added to it. I just made my user during the install process, and this is basically the first login. So to start, when we install WordPress, we have a few basic content types. These are posts. That's the basic post functionality of WordPress. It's basically a block module. And these posts include title, content, rich text content, and basic functionalities for a featured image. And that's basically it. There's categorization with categories and tags taxonomies. But yeah, these are great for basic posts. We also have static pages. We have a few: sample page and privacy policy. And pages are very similar to posts. The idea here is to have separate posts and pages for different functionalities. One is for the blog part of the site where you have articles, and the other is for pages like privacy policy, about you, etc. But I basically have content, title, featured image, and that's it. Now, we also have the comments type here. Now, ideally, we would want to create a type for products, because if you look at my front end here, we have a products type. We will use posts for blog and pages for about, but we do need a custom content type for these products. They have a title, they have their own categorization, they have a thumbnail and a featured image. They also have summary here, which is another field. So in order to make this type maintainable, we have to have a separate content type for it. You could do that with PHP, but there's also a very good plugin for that in WordPress that's extremely reliable and has been used for many years. It's called ACF. To install it, go to Plugins, Add New, and you open the Add Plugins view of WordPress, where you can search for plugins in their repository or directory, however they call it, and we'll look for ACF, which is Advanced Custom Fields. WordPress has functionality for custom fields and custom data types, which is exposed for developers, and you can, with a few configuration lines in PHP, enable any custom type. And this plugin does just that with a convenient user interface. That's not just convenient for setting up the custom types, but also for maintenance. And as you can see, it has 2+ million active installations. So it's a proven and tested plugin. And when you install and activate it, as I just did, you get this ACF entry in your sidebar. If you open it, everything is very straightforward. By the way, the plugin has a pro version which unlocks extra features, so you can read about them, but you don't need them for most basic functionalities, which you need in a normal web project. We have field groups. We'll come back to these later. We have post types and taxonomies. Let's start with post types. Post types and content types are basically the same thing. Let's have a look at the fields we would want in our new type first. We're doing a product type. Our product type will have a title, of course, which will be a short text field, a category, which I would like to be a list of available values, ideally some kind of a taxonomy, so that I would be able to create new categories, but I want these categories to be separate from the post categories, because although WordPress already has a categories taxonomy, I would want to use that for posts and blogging exclusively and have a separate taxonomy for these product types. We also want a summary field, which will be a long text, a large image field, which will be used in the individual product page, and of course a thumbnail, which will be one more media file we'll use to feature the products on the product page in the cards. You could go with a single image and configure WordPress to generate multiple thumbnail sizes. That's another approach. I prefer this one. It's a little bit simpler, but both work. Okay, let's go back to WordPress now and create our new type. I'll go to add new post type, and here we have to enter a few labels. First, I need a plural label for the type, which will be products in my case. The singular label will be product. The key is auto-generated. Taxonomies, I will not set any because we still don't have them. I want it to be public, not hierarchical for now. This will make it possible to have descendants of this post type. I don't think that's necessary for products, and I want to see the advanced config. And in the advanced configuration, we can now disable some of the basic fields, which are already included in any post type. I don't want the editor and the featured image. I want the title. I also want my custom field to show up. This is the field that shows custom fields, basically. Just a section that shows these fields. And I can add a summary for my new type. I don't want any. I think product is descriptive enough. Let's go to labels. Here you can customize different labels for this post type, which are primarily shown in the admin user interface. Basically in operations, view product, add new product, etc. The defaults are usually fine. Visibility, I want it shown in the UI. You can configure where here in the menu it will be shown. And you can even change the icon using the WordPress dash icons functionality. I'll leave the default for now. And here we have a couple of other options where to show this in admin bar, menus, and if we should exclude it from search. The defaults are fine for me in that case. Here we have some settings for the URLs of the items. These are not, these are fine as they are right now. I want to enable pagination, of course. The defaults are usually fine in this section, except if you want something special. Permissions, this should also be perfectly fine by default. Here we're talking about permissions of the capabilities of the post type itself, not permissions of users in relation to them. And of course I want the show REST API option, but it's by default selected. Here we need to set the URL for the REST API. I will set it to products. And here we have the default namespace route. We'll check that out later. And which controller class this post type should use. You could write a custom controller for your post type, but by default you can use this one. It includes get and post requests, so it should do the job for most custom types you build. And we create the post type. Now, if I open post types, I have products, but it also showed up in my sidebar. If I open it, you see I have no products. Let's add one. Currently I only have title because I disabled all other fields. And I can create a product, but it will only have a title. And that's not very useful for me, so let's delete this product. I want to add custom fields to it, and that happens with field groups. Here I add a new field group, and I'll call it product fields, and I immediately get a field added right here. And if I collapse that first field, here I have settings. And here I can choose for which posts to show this field group. And I want show it if post type is equal to product. And presentation, you can choose if that should be shown in a WordPress box or it should be seamless. I prefer seamless. This will show the fields just like any other integrated field. And some position of the new fields. Not an important. Group settings. Here we have to check show in REST API as well. Otherwise, these custom fields will not show up in the REST API response, which we will use as we are using WordPress in headless mode. And now let's add our fields. Let's check out how they were supposed to be. Title is already taken care of. It's a built-in field. Summary will be a long text field. Let's add that. So each field has a type. And the types are pretty comprehensive. You can choose many different options. This is a long text field, so I'll choose text area. The label will be summary, and the field name is automatically generated from the label. I don't want a default value. Here we have validation rules. I want it to be required and to have a character limit of 500. Here we have instructions you can add below the fields for authors. The placeholder, the text area height, because this is a text area field, and some other options for width, height. You can even add conditional logic. This is used if you want to show one field only if, for example, this summary field show it if some other field, for example, a checkbox, is checked, or if the value of a select dropdown is a certain value. This is very useful for some fields, so that you don't show them if it's not necessary. So the summary field is done. I intentionally leave category for now. Watch image and thumbnail are media files, so let's add that. I think I already mentioned that, but WordPress has a built-in media library. We'll use that, it's perfectly capable. The field type will be image, and the label will be watch image. The field name is auto-generated. I want an image URL as the return format, and I want the entire library to be, I want the user to be able to choose from the entire library. In validation, I can even set a minimum width and height, which I'll do, why not? It's usually good practice. You can even set a maximum width and height, which is also great practice if you don't want large file sizes. I'll set this as required. And here you can choose other presentation options, presentation in the admin UI that is. And let's add the thumbnail now. It will also be an image with URL, validation. I'll say a minimum width and height and make it required. And finally, let's save now. I would like to make my category field now. I want it to be a taxonomy. And as you can see, ACF also supports custom taxonomies. So let's go here and make one. I want my taxonomy to be called product categories. The singular label will be product category. Key is auto-generated. Post types, I'll choose product as the related post type that can be classified with this taxonomy. I want it public, hierarchical, why not, and go to the advanced config. Here, this is about sorting, labels, again, labels in the admin UI edit, update, etc. Defaults are fine. Here I can choose whether to show it in the UI, in the admin menu, and this meta box I will disable. Actually, no, let's leave it on so that I can show it to you in the admin user interface, and then I will disable it. The rest of the options should be fine by default. It's shown in the REST API by default. I will add a new base URL for it, like this, and save. And now let's go to field groups and add the category field. The category field will now be a taxonomy, which I can search for. It will be category, and I'll choose the product category taxonomy. I'll be able to create terms in place, and the return value, I want it to be the term object. The difference between this is that if I select term ID, in my REST API, I'll just receive the ID of the taxonomy item, but I don't want that. Usually, when I make a request for a product, I would want the taxonomy ID for the category or just the label of the category on the front end. And the appearance, multiple values or single value, I want single value select. And I will allow no, which would basically make this field not required. Actually, no, let it be required. And yeah, set required and save changes. Okay, now after we've added the custom fields, let's check our new content type again. I'll go to products and add new product. And here we go, we have our custom fields. If I add some values to them, they're validated, and say test summary here. Let's add a few images. I'll generate a quick placeholder. Okay. Random colors and download that. You see how the media library works. You just upload. You can set an alternative text and select. Here we have our image. I'll use the same one for the thumbnail, which usually wouldn't be the case, but for this test. And in category, we have our category taxonomy field. Now, here's why I wanted to disable that meta box. Here we have our category field, and it's a single select. I can create a new taxonomy, for example, right here. And I have my product categories to the right as well. And this is the meta box that I wanted to disable and just leave my custom field right here. So I'll do that right now. I'll save my item first. I actually can't create fields from here. So let's first check why that is. Okay. Create terms. Okay. Sorry, I made a copy. I should be able to create fields. Let me see the taxonomy. Okay. Visibility. Yeah, here's the categories meta box. I will say no meta box to hide the one to the right completely. Let's save changes now and refresh this view. And the categories meta box is hidden. Now I can create categories from here, as you can see under products, because I've made it a related post type, I get my new taxonomy UI. And here I have my user interface to create and edit product categories. So let's make some. I'll make one called electronics with no parent, and I'll make one called basics. Nothing special, just basic product categories. Now in my product one, I'll select my images again, and I will be able to select my categories. I'll just select one and publish. And now I have my first product item. Now the next step is to see how to actually use WordPress as a headless CMS, because right now we have a WordPress install here under localhost WordPress, and if I open that, it's a full WordPress site with some theme, the default theme that is installed. I can see posts. This new products type, I can probably even access it. Let me see. There, products. It even has pages for it. Now we won't use that at all. We'll use it as a headless CMS, so we need the RESTful API functionality that is under wp.json /wp/v1. This is v2. This is v2 of the API. Now, if I just open that, you can already see we have a RESTful API that shows us all routes, etc. Now, under that, I can say the content type that we just exposed, my custom content type, that is products. And here we have all products, which is one product currently, actually. And these are the data items for my product. As you can see, I have basic fields for date, modified, etc. I have the product ID, I have the swag, and the status. I also have its title that I will need. All of the custom fields are in the ACF object. And here I have my summary, word image, thumbnail, and category. And as you can see, currently I only have the IDs for those. To fix that, I need to pass a few parameters. Let me show you. If I open advanced custom fields, the documentation for it, here we go. We have a few options for the output format that are selected with parameters. This parameter, ACF format, by default, the ACF fields are output in the light format. We need the standard format, which includes more information for the types. So if I paste that parameter, ACF format equals standard right here, press enter, I get more information on my ACF fields. I get the word image URL, I get the thumbnail URL, I also get my category with its name, swag, everything. And to go a little bit further, I will also add another parameter, which is not from ACF but from WordPress, that's called fields with an underscore. And here I can list only the fields I'm interested in, which are ID, title, right here, and ACF, my advanced custom fields. I don't need anything else from this response. There you go. Now this is much more lean. It will save a lot of data. I can even go more granular by choosing acf.summary. Okay, yeah, acf.summary, acf.watchImage, acf.thumbnail, and select acf.category name. Because I don't actually need, let me see if that will work. Not really. This is very useful because you don't want your requests and response sizes to be large. At one consideration is that the server will take more time to compute and retrieve more fields naturally. I don't know if in this case there will be a significant difference because we're talking about very small data sizes, but in general it's good practice to limit the response size. And the other thing is that it's more readable, generally better for debugging. It's better in every way. So this is the actual request we can use in Next.js to retrieve the products. And let's do that right now in our front end. Here I have my products, and this is Next.js. So I will open my products route that is currently static. Here it is, 3 carts. And I will make a fetch request here. Let's first return JSX like this, prettify this a bit, make this async. And now I will say products. I'll actually say request and await a fetch request to this URL. All right. I will actually extract this URL right here. Ideally, in production, you would have your host of your API route somewhere in the configuration file and only pass paths. You will also have requests in separate files from presentation. We might do that here even. Let's now just fetch the data to make sure everything is working. This is a GET request and I don't need any authentication for it, so that should be fine. The response products, I'll call it, will be the request JSON. Okay, so far so good. I'll just console log that for now. I should see it in my terminal right here, because this will have on server side, and here it is. I have it just as I expected. And now we have our products. So all I need is to delete these cards that are static right now, and map through this products object like this. Products map product. For each product, I will return JSX. That will be this card. All right, and we should have a key because we're iterating in React. The key will be the product ID field. I have the product title right here, the render property I'll use. And here we don't need summary. We do need thumbnail, which we currently don't have. We'll need to pass that and change that in the component. I'll pass product thumbnail here. And watch image, we don't need. Category, we need. This will be the subtitle. It will be category. I think it was name. Let me check. Product category name. Okay, yeah. Learn more will be the label. I need the product swag right here. And I don't have it currently because it's not in my fields list. Let's add that. Swag, here it is. So I'll add it in my code as well. ID swag and title, and this will be, we'll turn that to a template string in JavaScript, and this will be /product/the product swag. There we go. Now the thumbnail will not work because we're passing it as prop, but here in the card component the image is hard-coded. So let's just check. Here we have an issue that we cannot read properties of undefined, that's name. First of all, so yeah, we need ACF category. We need ACF, yeah, we need ACF category name. So here on this we have product ACF thumbnail, product ACF category name, and yeah, typo. Now, okay, I have my product name, the swag is correct, just the image is not right because it's still hard-coded. So let's fix that. In cart, here I also have a thumbnail prop. Here I'll delete that hard-coded string. Let me see. Okay. And as this is the image URL, just basically paste it. Let's check it now. Okay, this is expected. The source prop is correct, but this host name is not configured in my Next.js as an acceptable host for images. And we have to add that in the Next.js. remote patterns for images, and I have to restart my next server. Let's do that. Images, remote patterns, HTTP, localhost. This is enough. All right, let's check it out now. It should load the image correctly from the WordPress CMS. And it does. Here we go. Okay. Well, I've retrieved my product. If I create a new product now from my WordPress control panel, let's test that out. Let's go with product 2. Test summary 2. I'll select the same image and a different category, electronics this time. Publish. Oh, actually my first product was also with electronics. And I have my second product. Let's change that category. Test the update with a hard refresh, because Next keeps cache of the requests. I get my product here. Now the individual product page is still not working. Let's get that to work. It should be very straightforward. Here under products, I have my dynamic route and page. And now we need to generate the static pages for this product. But first we'll create the fetch request for the data. Let me do that. Okay. So this will again be asynchronous. And here, let's see the request we need to make. Here I'm querying products. I would actually like to query a single product, and that will be more specifically queried by, right now I think I can query by ID. Let me see, 15. I would like to query by SWOC, so I can do that with a filter. I'll say SWOC is equal to whatever SWOC, let's say product 2, so that we don't get this product 2. There you go. And I get an array of items, but it will always be one item because SWOCs are unique. And I can keep these fields. I want all of them in the ACF format. Okay. So let's add the request URL here. I'll again do a fetch request to this request URL with the default options. It's a GET request. So products, product is equal to request JSON. We do have an array here. So the data will be, let's console log products 0. Save that, and here we go. Product 2. Awesome. Because we have opened the product 2 page right here. If I open product 1, we will get... Oh, no, actually the SWOC right now is hard-coded. So we need to modify that. Let me do that right here. Okay, I'll do it like this. I'll modify the other routes as well. This will be a template string. Okay, and here in the parameters, here we have params and we have SWOC. Let's console log that. Yeah, params SWOC product 1. So basically I need the dynamic parameter SWOC from my Next.js dynamic route, which I can get like this. Now, if I refresh again, check my terminal right here. My last request is to the product 1 SWOC. Great. Now, this request URL, I will add to a config file right here because it will be best. I will reuse it multiple times. Okay. This is basically my endpoint. And now I can import it and use only this part. And my products, list page and here in the details. There we go. Okay, let's see if everything is still working after I move that row constant. And it seems to be working correctly. Okay, the next part that we have to do is to get this data right here. I'll select the first item, and here we have this is actually the products view with the cards, this view right here. I want to modify the individual product page, so I'll open that. I want to take the individual product, and here I will use its title. In the image section, I will use the Warch image property from ACF. In the category, we'll use product ACF category name. There we go. Actually, sorry, this was the label above category. And here I have to output this summary. There we go. Let's test now. Objects are not valid as React child. Let me see. Where did I attempt to render an object? In title. Title is an object and it has a render property, which I need to use. Okay. Product ACF Warch image is not correct. Let me see. Warch image is an URL. A URL actually. Oh, it's just a string. I need to use the property. Okay. And as you can see, all the data is loading. Now if I go to products, I can browse both products. They have their individual data, and my Headless CMS integration is working beautifully. Now let's talk about contact forms. We'll use a plugin for our contact form. Again, one of the industry standard most popular plugins. That's Contact Form 7. It is a rather simple plugin, but it does support RESTful API integration. As you can see, 5+ million active installations. If you open it, there's an accompanying plugins that by the same author that will help you with additional items. Flamingo is one of those. By default, the Contact Form 7 plugin sends an email on contact form submission, but it doesn't save the contact form submissions in the content management system. So this Flamingo plugin will save the submissions, and we'll use that as well. I'll install that Contact Form 7 plugin and activate it. And I will also install Flamingo to save submissions. And I will also activate it, of course. Okay, both plugins are activated, and we have this new contact forms, admin menu entry, and Flamingo. Let's go to contact forms. We have one contact form by default here, contact form 1. Let's open it. And here's how you define fields in Contact Form 7 plugin with a markup language similar to HTML, including this templating language frequently used in WordPress. It's not the most convenient way, but you do have a documentation. It should be pretty straightforward to add new fields if they are simple fields. Now, here we have a name field, which is currently set to your name as the field name, your email, and your subject. We also have a message field. To be honest, that form is very similar: name, email, subject, and message. It actually has all fields we need. And here's the mail configuration. This is the mail that Contact Form 7 will actually send, and to who. We also have messages. These are the validation messages Contact Form 7 will return in the RESTful API in case we have valid submission, invalid submission, form field validation issues, anything. And here we have additional settings. These you can see details in the documentation. These are text format settings for many things. basically all-purpose settings field. Okay, what we need is the contact form ID, and we have a couple of them. First of all, we have a form ID right here, which might confuse you. We don't need that one. If we look at the URL in the WordPress admin, we see we're in the WordPress contact form 7 page, and the post ID is 19. This is the item ID in WordPress, so we need the ID 19. I will open Postman to test our request before implementing it, as we'll be making a post request to create a new form submission naturally. Now I have tested some of these submissions here, so I already have a prepared request, but I'll make a new one. We need a post request, and here is the URL structure we are interested in. WordPress JSON, this is the basic first segment of our WordPress RESTful API. Then we'll use the plugin name, contact form 7, v1 contact forms, the contact form ID, and we'll post the feedback endpoint. This is a little bit hard to find because it's not really well documented in the contact form 7 plugin, the structure to which you make post requests. But the forms integrated in WordPress actually make requests to the WordPress RESTful API so that they can be AJAX forms, and this is the URL they make requests to. So that's how you can basically reverse engineer it. The post ID is 19, the contact form ID basically. So I take that and paste it right here. Now, what does this endpoint expect? It expects a post request. I don't need any authentication whatsoever. Anyone can post to this endpoint, and it expects all of these as form data. So I will go to body, select form data, and we'll add these values one by one. Your name, I'll add my name. Your email, I'll specify a valid email. Not my real email, of course. Subject, let me see, test subject as the value, and message. You can change all of these names. I don't like that everything is prefixed with your for some reason. It's not really necessary in most cases. But yeah, that's the submission that the RESTful API of contact form 7 expects. And if we send that, we actually have sent the message. Mail is sent, is the status, the message back is thank you for your message, it has been sent. Now here you have validation errors in some cases. For example, let's say that I don't include a required field like my name. I get the status of validation failed. The message is one or more fields have an error. Please check again and try. Please check and try again. And I have for each field the validation message and error ID, which is very convenient. We'll use that for validation. Now let's check the WordPress backend. If I go to Flamingo now, I see my inbound messages. Here they are. This is the one I just made. And I am in the address book, so it already knows my name. But if I go to inbound messages, this is the actual message I sent. And I have all of my fields, name, email, subject, and message. Additionally, it also sent this email to my mail. I have this SMTP server running here, test one, and here is the email it sent from the email of the person and his name, test subject, and message body. This email is sent from a contact form on test website. This is the name of the WordPress website I've set up, and we get the URL. All of this is customizable, so you can set it up however you want. Now let's integrate that with this site. What do we have currently? Let's open the contact page. Nothing on the page itself, and the form. If I open the form component, it's a client component already. I've prepared it this way. And we have our fields. everything is pretty much ready to be integrated. First, I'll go to this fields array and change the field names to the ones I'm using in and requiring in my WordPress configuration. So open the contact form and change the field names to your name, your email. I need the names of the fields because that's important in form data. Your subject, and finally your message. Good. Okay, that's prepared. Now the next step is to add an event on form submission. I'll first prevent the default behavior, which is form submission. It will redirect to different URL, usually the action URL. And after that, I will get the form data by creating a new form data object and passing the event target, which is the form element. And after that, all we have to do is make a request. For that, I need to make this function async and await the fetch request. The fetch request should be, let me import. Actually, I don't need the request URL because it includes more segments than this one. Just copy this one, paste it right here. Here we go. And I will create the request options object above the request to separate the options for readability only, not for reusability. And the post, the method will be post, and that's all I need for now, basically. And let's get the response. Just await the JSON. And for now, I'll just console walk the response. Okay, let's see. Oh, we also need to pass the form data in the body, of course. Okay, great. Let me run that. Okay, server started. And if I open my contact page, let's see what's happening. Okay, form submit. Interesting. So I did troubleshoot that. I had a typo in my use client directive. That was all. Now that I fixed it, my use client directive is correct. My contact page is loading. Let's open the developer tools console because we console walk the response right now. And let's try to submit the form. I'll actually enter correct data. Test form web. I'm entering different subject and message so that I can differentiate them. And the status is that I've successfully submitted my message. Let's see, Infomingo, verify, inbound messages. Yes, it was posted correctly. Now the issue here is the following. If validation fails, for example, it did now because I don't have a subject, I get a message that one or more fields are invalid and I get my invalid fields array, but nothing happens basically. I don't see that in the front end. So I need to implement some user feedback here. To do so, I will rename this fields array to initial fields and I will store it, the fields, as a state variable. And I'll use initial fields as its first. See, I do have a typo here again. As its first value, default value. Let's import use state from React. Okay. Now everything should be the same, yes. And here's what we'll do. We'll check response and this invalid fields object in it. If, first of all, a response invalid fields is defined and its length is more than 0, so we have a validation error. In that case, we will set fields, we'll update fields basically to all values in fields. Actually, no. We will map over fields where for each field we will check the invalid fields array for an error. Basically, invalid fields will use the find method of the array and check if the, let's see, in invalid fields we have a field property that is the field name. So if x field is, we need to find x field equal to field name. Yeah. And basically, if that exists, there's a validation error, and that is it. Okay. So in any case, we will return the same field object where let's add two new properties: validation error, which will be true or false. If error is defined, true. Otherwise, set it to false. And actually, we don't even need that logic. It's fine. Fine on its own. But I want it to be strictly Boolean. That's why I input it. It's more readable if you debug the code. And the validation message, of course. And that will begin if error is defined. And in that case, we will have an error.message. Otherwise, empty string. And I'll add these fields to the initial fields as well, so that they are always there. Validation error false by default and validation message empty by default. I'll copy that and add it to all fields. Okay. And this code will set that. Now, here's what's important. When we do a request, we set the validation messages for each invalid field. But when we submit, we want these validation messages to reset. So we'll do that right here. First thing, set fields will be basically fields map again, field, and validation error will be false, validation message will be empty string. So on each submission, these are reset to the initial values. And then we set them again if there are any validation errors. Okay, now in case there are no errors, this if will be passed, then we can just use an alert to output the response message, which in this case was thank you for your message, it has been sent, but it can be anything else. And yeah, if response is undefined for any reason, just return an alert that an unexpected error occurred, try again later. That should only happen if there's an outage in the, basically in the API availability. Okay, let's test now. Actually, we can't test anything because these validation error and message fields are not output in the JSX. So let's do that. Below the fields, here we have the input or text area field, and below that I'll add just a div that will be text medium, text red 500, and let's actually have it text small because it's a validation message. And here we will only render that div if field validation error, and it will show field validation message. Very straightforward. Nothing changed at first glance, but let's test now. I've input one field. Let's submit without all of the others. Here we have a reference error, invalid fields is not defined. Let's see. Of course, I am trying to just access invalid fields without response. It's in that object basically. So if I submit now, one or more fields have an error, and I get the please fill out this field message. I also get invalid DOM property class. So a couple of errors. Here we should have class name. Second, if there are invalid fields, I want to end the subroutine here and not show the response message. So let's try again now. I submit, and my required fields get highlighted with the validation messages, which is great. Now let's try a form submission with correct data. Let's submit. Thank you for your message, it has been sent. Much better. Let's check Flamingo again. Everything is working as expected. So our form is basically set up now. The next step will be to set up pages, like the About page. Here we have it. It's very straightforward. Currently, the About page is right here. It's a static route. I would want a dynamic route for all pages made in the WordPress Pages section, basically. So let's do that. I'll create a swag dynamic route, and I'll just copy the pages of the About page because the layout will be the same. And I will rename the component to page. So now that I have my dynamic route, if I say anything, it will open it, and we'll use that for the pages. Now, basically, here's what we're gonna do. We already have a sample page, so let's check the WordPress API. Again, WordPress JSON, that will be v2 pages, and there we go. These are the pages. I will, of course, need a specific page by swag. Let's see where the swag is even. Okay, there goes swag. To filter it, just type sample page as the swag. I do have a typo apparently. Okay, and now we see only these items. And I would want fields. Let's also do fields filtering. What do I need? I need content and title and swag. So basically swag, also ID probably, title and content. Do I need anything else? I don't think so. Yeah, not at this stage. Let me see. Maybe I forgot something. Oh yeah, fields should be with an underscore. There we go. This is my request. I basically filter only the necessary fields. Sorry, I filter the fields to show only the necessary ones, and filter all pages by swag, where I request a specific swag. Now I will copy this request right here, and I'll use it. I'll import request URL from my config, and I will make a fetch request. I will wait. Okay, I can replace this basically with request URL. To do that, I need to change to template string. Again, this is a GET request without authentication. Default options make this an async function. Okay, and the page is basically request JSON, the return JSON. I just saw that I'm in the About page, which I shouldn't be here. In fact, the About page, I'll copy paste that. Rename it again to page. The About page, I can completely delete that route. It's not necessary anymore. And here we have page. This is actually pages, and page will be the first item from that. And here we need page title. Here we need, although we will probably need to do dangerously set in our HTML. Let's for now say page content rendered. This is also page title rendered. And that's it, basically. The swag should be from params from Next.js. Okay, let's test now. Copy the swag, paste it in my front end. There we go. But here we need to do dangerously set inner range HTML. There we go. In order to render it. That's how we do that. Let's now refresh. And there we have it. The page content. Now what this property does is it injects HTML and renders it inside the container. Dangerously set is sounds pretty bad because it kind of is dangerous to inject HTML, but as long as you control the source, that's fine. That's the way to basically render HTML from external API into a div in React or basically any element. So it should be fine. Okay, so we have our pages. Now all I need to create my about page is to just add it right here. I can create any page and publish. And now let's check the swag of the page. Where is it? Yeah, it's already about. So let's go to about. There we go. Working as expected. So I can create any page I want right here and it will work in my Next.js application. Awesome. The last functionality we have to get working is the block, which means posts. Here just change pages to posts, remove the swag filtering, and we have the same content basically, title and content fields. So I can copy this very easily for the block detail page. Let me open the front end so that you can see it. Here it is. It's basically the same. So I will copy that. In fact, I'll copy the entire template. I can probably even go with the same component here. Name that block details. And the only difference is posts. And that's it, basically. Now, if I test with a blog post, I have this hello world blog post with the hello world swag. Let's test that. Hello world. I do have an error here. Import request URL has an incorrect import. Normal. It should be right here. And now, there we go. So the blog detail page is already working. Now let's do the list page. It also won't be very hard. So we have the post title and author. I think we can also show just the title. It will be much simpler. And to do that, we need the following fields: ID, title, and swag. ID, swag, title. Let's see. ID, swag, title. Okay. So we need basically. And let's do that right here in the page. There we go. I remove this. I don't need the entire object. This is already prepared for a RESTful API because it expects data from an object, so that's great. I shouldn't need to change anything, basically. So I will just make this async and make a new request. Await fetch. I will import request URL and paste the request URL I used in the browser. Posts, fields, ID, swag, and type. And the posts are the request JSON again. We do have a theme here. The requests are pretty similar, so once you get a hang of it, it's very easy. I'll call this blog posts because this is how it's expecting it to be. Okay. Yeah, post title rendered is what we need. And here we go. we have our list page as well. If I create a new post, test post with test content and publish it, hard refresh right here, I get my new post. There you go. Awesome. Yeah, pretty nice. Everything is working. The last remark I want to make is if you want, you can regenerate these as static pages. How are you going to do that? For example, you have a certain amount of products already in your content management. So to generate static pages, we can go to the products, first the products dynamic route. And here, let's go to the Next.js documentation. We need to search for static params. More specifically, generate static params function, which we can export here next to the page. And if we do that, we export this generate static params function, and here we can make a fetch request again for all products. The difference being, this time we don't need ACF format standard, we don't need a lot of fields, we just need the swag, because we're gonna return first, let's see, products are the request JSON, and we're gonna return products map product, and we're gonna set the swag of the page that's gonna be generated statically to product swag. And what this will do is it will generate a product page for each individual product we have, because we retrieve a list of all products from this endpoint. So let's test that right now. If I run npm run build, because that will only work at build time, not during debugging. Let's wait for an optimized build and see the summary. Okay, so let's check the summary. As you can see, let me expand that so it's easier. Under products, it retrieved our 2 products and statically generated pages for them. With this, I'll wrap today's video. If you like the content, don't forget to subscribe to get notified when the next video is released. Take care.